What's going on, everybody? A couple things. First off, I want to give a shout out to my friend Deshaun for reporting on the Central Washington Wildcats. It's nice to see somebody else do that. See, I'm not the only Central Washington fan up here. There's actually quite a few in my area and throughout the state of Washington, but we're kind of a quiet fan base, and that's okay. That's okay. So I just want to give him a shout out for talking about the Wildcats. I don't necessarily agree with everything he said, but that's just me, and it was cool to see him talk about the team. Secondly, this is going to not only be posted on YouTube, but also my Facebook and MySpace accounts for my old radio show. So I'll have the links below, so you can become a follower on those sites. So let's talk about the Wildcats. Here's our midseason review of the football team. First, let's look at the Great Northwest Athletic Conference standings. As of today, October 9th, Humboldt State leads the conference with a conference record of 3-0 and an overall record of 5-0. Another thing about Humboldt State going into this week of competition, before they took on UC Davis, they were ranked 24th in the coaches pool. It was actually the first time Humboldt was actually voted into the top 25. So they are in first place. Western Oregon is in second with a conference record of 3-1. I believe their one loss was to Humboldt. Don't quote me on that, but I believe that was the case. Western Oregon also has an overall record of 3-3. In third place is the Central Washington Wildcats. They are 2-2 in conference, 2-3 overall. Dixie State in fourth. Conference record 1-3, overall record 1-5. Simon Fraser 1-4 in conference and 2-4 overall. Going into the second half of the season, Simon Fraser will visit Western Oregon. Azusa Pacific will play Dixie State, and Humboldt State is at Central Washington. How did the Wildcats get to this point of the season? Well, they kind of dug themselves a hole. Their first week of the season, they were ranked 22nd in the nation. They faced off against Texas A&M Kingsville, who was 7th in the nation at the time, and the Wildcats fell 21-10. The very next game, which was on TV on CBSSN, they actually lost to Humboldt State by falling in the last second. Humboldt kicked a game-winning field goal. And I didn't get a chance to watch that game, unfortunately. I was able to see the Texas A&M Kingsville game, but couldn't watch the next two games, which were the Humboldt State game was a 38-36 loss, and then Western Oregon defeated us in week 3, 14-7. So to finally get in the win column, a week ago the Wildcats took down the Simon Fraser clan in Ellensburg, 37-17, and then yesterday they took down Western Oregon 41-10. Coming up is their homecoming game, which hopefully I plan to attend. Right now everything looks like I'm going to be able to attend it, but something could still come up. So I'm probably not. I am 95% sure I'll be able to go, and I'm looking forward to that. Their homecoming game is against Humboldt State. So that being said, here is how I view. Here is how I view the Central Washington Wildcats. I think it took a while for this team to gel. I really do. This team was very streaky on both sides of the football. I actually thought our defense played okay against Texas A&M Kingsville despite losing by 11 points. But our offense could not score at all throughout that game. And then if you look at the next game, the 38-36 loss against Humboldt State, I mean, the offense put up 36 points on the board, so the defense obviously had an off day. Then you look at the Western Oregon Wolves game when we lost 14-7. The defense did their job, only allowing 2 scores, and then the offense had 5 critical turnovers throughout the game, which eventually led to the loss. So the win over Simon Fraser, obviously Simon Fraser's not a really big-time opponent, but the win against Simon Fraser was the first time both sides of the football were able to gel together. And so that was pretty nice, and that momentum carried over against Western Oregon. The Wildcat defense played extremely well. They had a pile of interceptions and a pile of turnovers. that they to lead the Cats. And also Ryan Robertson, our quarterback, also went off that day. He did throw one interception, but at one point, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but at one point he did have 198 yards passing, so that also helped as well. So, because they have won their last 2 games, this gives them an opportunity to get out of the hole that they've created. There's still an opportunity to win this conference. They're going to need a little help, but if they can win out, if they can win out or maybe lose just 1 game, there is an opportunity for this team to do something special at the end of the season. The playoffs probably are kind of out of expectations now because they lost 3 games, and that's okay as long as we get the conference title. As I've said before, I want to see progression, and at this point, the only way we're going to show progression is by defending our conference title, unfortunately. So, after the first off and foremost, the Wildcats must beat the Humboldt State Lumberjacks this weekend. If they do not beat the Lumberjacks, their season is arguably over, because at that point the Wildcats would be 2-3 in conference, 2-4 overall, and the Lumberjacks would be 4-0 in the conference and 6-0 overall, and would be a good 2 full games over the Wildcats, meaning the Wildcats would have to have some major help in terms of Western Oregon and Humboldt State losing, because both of those teams are in front of them in the conference. But if they can win, which I do think they have a chance to win this game, because this game is at home. Humboldt does have a tendency to not travel very well in Ellensburg. They haven't won in Ellensburg in a very long time. Of course, that streak could end. I'm not saying that there's no chance of them winning, but the fact that Wildcats, they're hot right now, everything is clicking, and this time Humboldt has to take the 16-hour bus ride from Arcata, California to Ellensburg, Washington. So that also helps. So, as I said, if they lose to Humboldt State, arguably the season is over. But if they can win, there's a good chance that they can climb back into the conference title race, because our schedule for the most part is pretty weak. Dixie State, who, as I've mentioned, is not doing very well. We got to play them twice. We'll actually go on the road to play Dixie State after Humboldt. Then we have to go to Canyon, Texas to play the West Texas A&M Buffaloes, which could be a loss. However, if we beat Humboldt, I don't think that's going to be a big deal. Then we got to play Simon Fraser. We've already solved them once this year, and then we have to play Dixie State at home. So the schedule after the Humboldt State game actually does favor the Wildcats. The only scary thing about the upcoming schedule is after the game against Humboldt, the majority of the games are on the road. We have to go in this order after the Humboldt game to St. George, Utah, Canyon, Texas, and Barnaby, British Columbia. So that's going to be a brutal road trip. But if they can get this win against Humboldt, I think there is a chance for us to go at least, not counting the Lumberjacks game, they have a chance to go 3-1 in their last 4 games, which could get them over the hump for the conference title. They're going to need help in terms of Western Oregon and Humboldt losing. They can't really do anything about Western Oregon because they've already played them twice. They can do something against Humboldt. So don't want to get too far ahead, but in order for us to make some noise in the conference, as I said many times throughout this video already, this Humboldt State game is a must-win game. If not, the season, as much as I hate to say it, is arguably over. So let's go get Humboldt again. I hope to attend the homecoming game, which is coming up. It's going to be an interesting atmosphere, because usually when Humboldt comes into town, everyone kind of just looks at that as a guaranteed victory, and it's not the case this year. So let's get the Jacks, and then let's focus on the rest of our schedule, which, in my opinion, favors the Wildcats. So go Cats! Let's get this. Let's get the victories, and we'll see you at the end of the season to report what they did. Again, follow me on Facebook, MySpace, and Twitter. The links are below. Thanks very much for watching.